Still we are in part 1. Here we are going to learn parts of a computer system, right? Now here, once you take the computer system, you will see here the system unit, right? We are calling it as a system unit because everything is included here. The entire system is inside this box, right? Inside this black box. Sometimes we call it as CPU as well, but it is wrong, right? Then here you can see the display unit, right? This only gives the output. Then few input and output devices. Always when we feed anything to the computer, we are calling it as input devices. Then whatever the output taken from the computer, we are calling it as output devices. Speakers, output device, then the mic input device, mouse, keyboard input device, monitor output device. No worries, because later I will be explaining separately, right? There is a separate video for input and output devices, but it is nothing, right? You can simply understand what is input and output devices, right? Now this is the entire computer system, but all main components reside inside this black box. Now we can see part by part. The main circuit inside this black box is this. We are calling it as a main board or motherboard. This is actually a main computer, right? There are few components here. The first component is CPU, central processing unit. We are calling it as a microprocessor or main processor. This is considered to be the brain of the computer system. Entire processing is done here, and there will be a cooling fan because this generate heat. So you can fix this processor to this socket. Here there is a separate socket provided in the motherboard. You can fix it. Even the computer model is named according to the processor, like Core i3, Core i5, Core i7, first generation, second gen. Likewise we call, no, that is depends on the CPU. Now this is considered to be the brain of the computer system. Then there are memory units. First we are going to see this RAM. This is actually main memory. Why we are calling it as main memory? You can fix this memory here, right? There is a slot. Why we are calling it as main memory? Without this memory you can't switch on the computer. If your memory is damaged, you won't get anything here, no display. Therefore we are calling it as main memory. The word is used RAM, easy to pronounce. Otherwise we can call this as main memory, read write memory, volatile, because temporary, right? As you switch off the computer, everything get erased, but it is a working area. Read write memory, and randomly can access, right? There are two methods, no? Sequence access and random access. Now tape drive, always you need to follow the order, sequence access, but here you can randomly access. Therefore we are calling it as RAM commonly, but we need to understand this is the main memory, read write memory. Here only we work, at the same time it is temporary. As you switch off, everything get erased, right? Now it is very clear what is RAM, the purpose of RAM. Then there is another kind of memory here, is a hard disk drive. No worries, later I will be explaining about what is SSD. This is a hard disk drive. It is a permanent storage. We can permanently store. Even if you switch off the computer, everything will stay here. It is not going to erase like in the RAM, right? So to store operating system, every time you switch on the computer, you get Windows 10, 11 or 8, whatever, it is stored here, but it will come from here to here. Here only we work. Without this hard disk, you can switch on the computer, right? But you can't use the operating system. It will just display whatever it is stored in the system. Few text you can see here, manufacturer, the version, year of all these things comes here, but computer is working. But we need operating system to use, so that operating system only stored here, right? So this is another kind of memory. It's a permanent storage. This is main memory. We are calling it as primary memory as well, because without this you can't switch on the computer. This is we are calling secondary storage, permanent storage. Another kind of memory known as ROM, read only memory. Now here RAM you can separately buy and fix it here. Hard disk drive you can separately buy and fix it inside this box, and with the cable you can connect this to the motherboard. But ROM you can't separately buy and fix, right? This is actually the designing time with the motherboard itself. Manufacturer only provide this. Some important instructions are stored here. As you switch on the computer, the brain will send a signal to the ROM, right? Activate the post power on self test program. There is a program called post power on self test. As you give the power, test everything. Now let's say now the testing time, if your RAM is not working, it will provide continuous beep, key can no display, something wrong, right? So this is the first program activate in the computer system. CPU will activate post power on self test, instruct ROM to activate the post program. After testing everything is okay, it emit one beep, kick, system is functioning properly. Then there is another program called bootstrap loader. It will locate the operating system, right? In operating system later we'll be learning, there will be a master boot record here. Locate and transfer from hard disk drive to RAM, then only we can use the computer. So this is actually the function of ROM chip. We are calling it as a BIOS, ROM BIOS, basic input output system. Everything is stored here. When manufacturer is embedded this instruction, then we are calling it as a firmware, right? Very simple thing. Now we no need to memorize, take a book and what is the firmware, what is the hardware, what is the software. No, manufacturer is written, embedded certain instruction at the time of manufacturing, then we are calling it as firmware. Hardware, I mean all these devices, tangible, right? You can see and touch. Software, set of instructions or program to fulfill certain tasks. Let's say you want to type a letter, you will be using a word software, right? To calculate, you will be using a spreadsheet. So these are different kind of softwares for different purposes. Now for programming, whatever we write in English now. So that should be converted to the machine language, then compiler, interpreter. All these actually we are calling it as software. Liveware mean the human part who use the computer. So it's very simple, right? So nothing to take a book and write notes and highlight. Right, now it is clear what is CPU, what is RAM, what is ROM, how the startup take place. It's very clear. Hard disk is a secondary storage. Additional to this, there are few slots here. We can actually fix cards like. Now for example, let's say in this motherboard there is a display unit, right? So there is a display circuit here. We connect from here to the monitor, then only you can see, right? Using the monitor you can view everything. Now let's say you are playing a high-end game, so then the display unit is not supporting, pictures not clear, right? Breaks and goes. Then you need to buy a separate card called VGA card, specifically designed for gaming, little expensive. Then you can fix it here, and then you will be connecting the monitor cable to this VGA card. High quality video resolution you can take from this VGA card. Similarly, there will be a basic sound circuit built into the motherboard. You are expecting high quality sound for home theater system, then you can buy a sound card and fix it here. Likewise, you can expand the system whenever you want. The slots are provided, right? Now it is very clear. Inside this computer there is a main motherboard, then there is a brain, CPU or main processor, microprocessor, generate heat, we need a cooling fan, then there are different kinds of memories, RAM, hard disk, secondary storage, then ROM. Later I will be explaining some other memories as well, right, inside the CPU. Right now just I am giving a basic understanding, right? You have to have a good understanding about the system, then only you can easily memorize, right? You can understand, you can store it properly. Now you know what is RAM, what is hard disk drive, what is ROM. As you switch on the computer, what is happening inside this ROM chip, right? CPU will interact to activate pause, then bootstrap loader, then finally operating system will be transferred from here to here, then only we can use. Because always we are accessing this is the main reason we need good capacity here, otherwise your machine get very slow. Even your processor is very fast, if you have very little memory, right, get very slow. Why? Every time it need to send back to the hard disk and take the next new block, then you want another new block, again it need to send it and take it. Can't put everything and work because not enough memory. You have to have good memory to smoother functioning, right? Now we are not memorizing anything. Soon after this video you go to front of a computer system, right? Otherwise you assume there is a computer system front of you. What is inside this black box, right? What is the function of CPU, right? As you switch on the computer, what is the first program activate inside the system? All these things you should be able to tell, right? Then if you miss out anything, right, let's say certain points I can't explain properly, again you play the video, then again come sit front of the system and assume what is inside, what is the motherboard, what is the CPU, what is RAM, what is secondary storage, what is the function of ROM, how we can expand the system, right? All this stuff. Now it is very clear basic components inside a computer system. Later we will be learning in detail secondary storage types. Right now here you get DVD drive, that's also storage media, the optical media. Here the hard disk drive is magnetic media, that later we will be learning in detail. Now you have to have very good understanding. Once this picture is clear, those topics you can easily understand, right? Then system, there are input devices, there are output devices. In exam point we need to understand certain things very clearly. Only input devices, only output devices. Certain devices you can use it as input and output. That I will be explaining in part 2 under input and output devices. Stay tuned for the next video. Thank you.